Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to our hadith class. We are doing the kitab known as Riyaadhus Saaliheen of Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah. And last week we entered into the chapter with regards to the importance of following the Sunnah. And tonight, inshallah ta'ala, we are continuing on from that chapter from hadith number 3. So let us begin. Bismillah walhamdulillahi wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. So we are doing hadith number 159, which is the third hadith of this chapter. الثالث عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: كل أمتي يدخلون الجنة إلا من أبى. قيل: ومن يأبى يا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم؟ قال: من أطاعني دخل الجنة ومن عصاني فقد أبى. رواه البخاري. The third hadith of this chapter, Hazrat Abu Huraira radiyallahu anhu narrates this hadith. He said that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, "Kullu ummati, all of my ummah, yadkhuluna al-jannata illa man aba. All of my ummah will enter Jannah except those who refuse." The Sahaba radiyallahu anhum, they asked the question that, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, who is there that would refuse to enter Jannah? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, Man ata'ani dakhal al-Jannah. He who obeys me will enter Jannah. Or in other words, he has already entered Jannah on account of his obedience to me. وَمَنْ عَصَانِي فَقَدْ أَبَى. And he who disobeys me, he is the one who has refused. He has refused for himself entering to Jannah. Now I gave one of my weekly audios on the same hadith about 3 weeks or so ago. So but I think we spoke about 10 minutes on that. So unfortunately, I don't want to take another 10 minutes to speak on the hadith here now tonight. Otherwise, we won't be able to do much tonight. But nonetheless, there are many explanations that the ulama have given. All of them stress the importance of obedience to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and following the Sunnah. So if you want to take a simple lesson away, live your life according to the Sunnah, and you are basically guaranteed Jannah. You know, it may come across like an extreme statement perhaps in the minds of some people, but the reality is that when you follow the Sunnah, then you become a beloved of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and by extension you are beloved of Allah. And when you are beloved by Allah, then why would you be refused entering to Jannah? So it follows one after the other. When you are a true follower of the Sunnah, obviously, hence why I said following all of the Sunnah to the best of your capability. That way you'll stay away from sin, you'll be doing the good deeds and so on and so forth, and you come closer and closer to Allah the entire time. So, it's like it goes hand in hand in that sense. In any case, I will try and take that audio, that weekly audio, and put it up on YouTube. But those who don't have YouTube, in case I forget or die before I do that, the audio is available on WhatsApp, where I usually send it out. The name of the audio was Those Who Refuse Jannah. Words to that effect was the name of the audio. But anyhow, let's continue on. Imam Bukhari rahimahullah is the narrator of this hadith. So let's move on to the fourth hadith. الرابع عن أبي مسلم سلمة بن عمرو بن الأكوع رضي الله عنه. The next fourth hadith is reported by a very famous Sahabi. His kunya is Abu Muslim. Not famously known by his kunya. His real name is Hazrat Salama ibn Amr ibn al-Akwa' radiyallahu anhu. Most people will know him as Hazrat Salama ibn al-Akwa' radiyallahu anhu. Now, he is Salama ibn Amr ibn al-Akwa', and this is a common thing. Who is it that doesn't know one of the Asharatul Mubashirin bil Jannah, Hazrat Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah radiyallahu anhu? But that's not his father either. He is Amir ibn Abdullah ibn al-Jarrah. That's the real name of Hazrat Abu Ubaidah radiyallahu anhu. Amir ibn Abdullah ibn al-Jarrah. So here, Salama ibn Amr ibn al-Akwa'. It's a common thing. So it's not that his father was al-Akwa', his father was Amr, his grandfather was al-Akwa'. Whose real name was Sinan in any case. But nonetheless, Hazrat Salama ibn al-Akwa' radiyallahu anhu, as we famously know him, he's the narrator of the hadith. He says, أن رجلا أكل عند رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بشماله فقال كل بيمينك قال لا أستطيع قال لا استطعت. He said that one day a man was eating by Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam with his left hand. فقال, so Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam told him, كل بيمينك, eat with your right hand. The man replied by saying, قال لا أستطيع, I can't do so, I'm unable to. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam replied by saying, "Lasta ta'ata, you will not be able to do so." That's where the hadith, the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam ends. Just kul bi yaminik and lasta ta'ata. In this entire hadith, only that are the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. The rest is the words of the narrator. Ma mana'ahu illa al-kibr fama rafa'aha ila fihi. Rawahu Muslim. So the narrator goes on to explain that what prevented this person from eating with his right hand, he had no illness, he had no problem with his hand or anything. It was just nothing prevented him from obeying Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam except arrogance. And فَمَا رَفَعَهَا إِلَى فِيهِ, he was never able to lift his right hand up to his mouth again for the rest of his life. Now, in the science of hadith, when you have kathratu turuq, when you've got we're doing hadith class here, not the usulul hadith, so I'll save this for another day, inshallah ta'ala. But anyway, nonetheless, the name of this person is known. He is Hadrat Busr radiallahu anhu. Either he's Sahabi, he's not a munafiq or anything, but Hadrat Busr ibn Ra'i al-Ayr. Hadrat Busr ibn Ra'i al-Ayr, that's his name. And he was indeed a Sahabi, not from the munafiqeen. But the thing, what the ulama have explained was that when a person had no, and we did this last week, when Allah had mentioned the ayah of the Quran, Imam Nawawi quoted that ayah, then فَلْيَحْذَرِ الَّذِينَ يُخَالِفُونَ عَنْ أَمْرِهِ, that beware those people who go against the command of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that some fitna or some severe punishment may befall them. So when you went against the command of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam for no reason, like in the case here at hand, then the words comes as a curse from Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam to say, "Lasta ta'ata," you will not be able to do so. So on account of that, he was never able to eat with his right hand again. He said, "I can't do it." So then you can't do it. So then he was unable to do it again in future. He wasn't unable to eat with his left hand again. He was able to eat with his left hand. He just was never able to use his right hand again. Imam Muslim rahimahullah is the narrator of this hadith. Okay, moving on to the fifth hadith. Al-Khamisu an Abi Abdullah an-Nu'man ibn Bashir radiyallahu anhuma قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول لتسون صفوفكم أو ليخالفن الله بين وجوهكم متفق عليه. Fifth hadith, Hadrat Abu Abdullah radiyallahu anhu, famously known with his real name, Hadrat Nu'man bin Bashir radiyallahu anhuma. He said that I heard Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam saying, "La tusawwanna sufufakum." You will most definitely make your safs in salah straight. Otherwise, أو لا يخالفن الله بين وجوهكم. Or Allah will, let's put it this way, make your faces disunited. I will explain it further in a moment. Allah will cause your faces to be disunited or make differences between them. Now, the ulama have explained a lot of things in this regard as well. Some have explained, it can be physical, it can be metaphorical. Physical in the sense that, that Allah has turned people from Bani Israel and them into pigs and monkeys. So, the nations who were destroyed in the past. So for Allah to literally change your faces is nothing for Allah. But the more commonly accepted opinion is that it is a metaphorical thing. So it's not meaning that Allah will physically change your faces, but what it means is that Allah will, you have a person, you don't exactly have a problem with him, or maybe it's even somebody you are close with, but on account of you not standing shoulder to shoulder in salah, Allah causes through your action, you cause it, in other words, Allah causes your hearts and your faces to be disunited. So if you're standing social distancing, each one a distance away from one another, you cannot blame anyone if you have fights and arguments and problems and stuff. And why are people being like this? And why are people finding problems with you and calling you this and that? In reality, it was on account of you abandoning the command of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam of taswiyat sufuf that caused you to land up in that situation. And that's simply just one of the things. But nonetheless, if you don't straighten your sufuf in salah, Allah will cause a split to come between your faces. So you will be you'll be standing next to one another, but your hearts will be poles apart. متفق عليه حديث reported both by Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim rahimahumullah. We do the next hadith because it's of a similar nature. وفي رواية للمسلم, like I said, it's the same hadith in another narration of Imam Muslim rahimahullah. كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يسوي صفوفنا. That Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم used to straighten our صفوف حتى كأنما يسوي بها القداح. And in this hadith, Hazrat Nu'man radiallahu anhu, he mentions that كأنما Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam used to straighten our sufuf so much كأنما يسوي بها القداح, as if you were straightening the fletching of an arrow. So qidah refers to the fletching. An arrow is made up of different parts. You've got your nock at the back, you've got your fletching, you've got your shaft, you've got your arrowhead. So that's basically the main four parts of your arrow. So the feathers, that back part, that's known as the fletching. The al-qidah is what is being referred to here, that fletching. The plume, if you were using feathers, we're not talking about the nom de plume over here, but the plume, the plumage, the fletching, to use the more correct term. So that fletching, when you are a person who's okay, nowadays people have these plastic things on their arrows, plastic fletching and things of the sort. But when you were using feathers on your arrow, you would straighten it so that you want to get maximum speed and penetration with your thing like this here. And obviously the fletching plays a role, otherwise it wouldn't be on there. It's not there so that I can have a pink, if you see somebody with a pink arrow stuck in him, well, with pink feathers, that's my arrow. It wasn't for that reason. So people who were archers, they would straighten these feathers. So the Sahabi explaining, he said that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to straighten our sufuf so much that it was like the person who's an archer and was straightening this fletching before going to shoot his arrow. That's how he's using this metaphorical way of saying that amount of precision that you put in to make certain this is straight. That's how Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam would put in to make certain our sufuf are straight. حتى إذا رأى أن قد عقلنا عنه. So much so until Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam saw that yes, we've understood, we know the importance of straightening the saf. Then Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, we are straight now and everything, and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam would lead the salah. And then this is how we carried on. So after Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam stressed this, the Sahaba radiallahu anhum fell into place and they straightened their sufuf. So Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam didn't need to go literally every salah and make certain everybody is straight. You taught them, they following it, well and good. ثم خرج يوما. Then one day Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam came out to perform the salah. فقام حتى كاد أن يكبر. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam stood in the place as the imam, and كاد أن يكبر. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam was busy basically lifting his hands almost to make the takbir. فرأى رجلا باديا صدره. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam had the capability that Allah had given Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, as Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, I see you behind my back. So Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam saw one Sahabi badiyan sadruhu. His chest was sticking out of the saf. In other words, he was not straight in the line. Everybody else was straight, but he was standing a little bit forward. We are not talking here about the person, somebody's thin and the next one is barrel chested. We're not talking about things of that sort. Obviously, if somebody's weighing 25 kg and the other one looks like he eat 25 kg people for breakfast, so he takes up 4 sufuf and you take up 1, we're not talking about the case. Obviously, two people standing next to each other like this here will be poles apart. It's like he takes he's like a broomstick standing over there and he's like taking the whole stuff up just on his own. So that is in its place. This wasn't a case like this. This was a case of him being in front because everybody was generally of a similar build. So he was standing a little bit forward, hence why his chest could be seen sticking out from the rest of the saf of Sahaba radiallahu anhum. So Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam stopped before making the takbir and said, فَقَالَ عِبَادَ اللَّهِ لَتُسَوَّنَّ صُفُوفَكُمْ أَوْ لَيُخَالِفَنَّ اللَّهُ بَيْنَ وُجُوهِكُمْ. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam held on with making the takbir to tell the Sahaba radiallahu anhu, Ibad Allah, O servants of Allah, la tusawwanna sufufakum. You will most definitely make your sufuf straight, or otherwise, la yukhalifanna Allahu bayna wujuhikum, or Allah will make your faces disunited, which, like I say, faces here in another narration, it mentions baina qulubikum, between your hearts. So we know, we understand here that it's a metaphorical way of saying that Allah will, cause this splits and arguments and stuff to come about as a result of your actions. You stand apart from one another. Thus, shaitan is able to come and cause corruption amongst you. Therefore, it's your actions which lead to the end of the day of this split being coming between the people, because you did not want to stand correctly in the saf. But in any case, the importance of taswiyah to sufuf is something that cannot be stressed enough. In the days, even in a place like Saudi, they would say, you'd have imams and they would stand on a Friday Jumu'ah and they would say, اعتدلوا وسووا صفوفكم وسدوا الخلل, and so on and so forth. And you'd have people come to South Africa here, or at least I should say South Africans, they are watching too much Saudi TV, so they hear these terms, they don't even know what it's saying, and they would repeat it like this. So they would come on a Jumu'ah and say these words, and when the time came for COVID, they were the ones who were saying stand social distancing. Anyhow, long story that was, but the importance of straightening the saf is something that is stressed in numerous ahadith. Hence why we have all of these things, tarasu, sawu sufufakum, suddul khalal, which are all taken from a different ahadith when Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam had made these sort of statements: straighten, fill up the gaps, don't leave a gap for shaitan, and so on and so forth. So the importance is greater than what people tend to think it is. It's just to have everybody stand straight. No, it's not. It's far more than that. You may not be able to understand it, but if Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam stressed it, then the importance is greater than a person can understand. Okay, so let's move on to the next hadith. Hadith number 162. السادس عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال احترق بيت بالمدينة. Hadrat Abu Musa al-Ash'ari radiyallahu anhu, he narrates that احترق بيت بالمدينة على أهله من الليل. One night a house burned down in Medina, the house where some people were living, the house burned down. فلما حدث رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بشأنهم قال إن هذه النار عدو لكم فإذا نمتم فأطفئوها عنكم متفق عليه. When Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam was informed, meaning, the house had already burnt down, whether it was the next day or whatever, but Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam was told now of what had transpired. Then Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, this fire, it is an enemy for you. So when you go to sleep, then extinguish your lamps, extinguish your fire, your flames, because obviously there was not electric lights. You weren't having torches and lanterns and all these sort of things you can plug in your electricity. There weren't such things. So light came from fire. So whether you have a candle or you had a olden times lantern, the real fire lantern type, but anyway, so فَأَطْفِئُوهَا عَنْكُمْ, then extinguish it upon you, so that does not happen to you, so that there's no chance of you being burnt at night. Now, there's another hadith where Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam spoke about a fuwaysiqa. Fuwaysiqa is a diminutive form of the word fasiqa. Fasiqa, fuwaysiqa, which was a term Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam used for a mouse. So it's a little creature that is a little evil creature that causes problems. So a mouse came in and it causes the candle, it runs, it bumps the candle falls over, catches the blanket on fire, and people die. And you see this. We live still in a situation, while some people may have fancy homes, brick structures, electric lights and everything of the sort, there are still many people who live in shacks. There are people who don't have lights. There are people who live and work by a candle. So there was like an incident just the other day of the family, not Muslim, but anyway, they live in one of those shack type places, and they woke up, the blanket that was on the mother had caught on fire, and the woman died as a result of it. But anyway, the point being that things like this happen even up until this very day. How many times in recent times as well don't you hear house caught on fire, house burned down, especially when it comes to load shedding? So the people are they go to sleep, they put on a candle and they go to sleep, and then somehow the candle tips over, catches something on fire. People don't realize because they're asleep. The smoke is busy rising, but they're not seeing it. By the time they wake up, the place is surrounded in flames, and people have died like this. So the advice of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam wasn't only for that time. It's something that's applicable even up until this very day, to what we can take away from it. If we happen to be living in a proper house with electric lights and everything of the sort, then what you take away from it is, don't leave things out that can cause harm, in simple terms, because anything can happen. Like that, a candle can fall over, like you keep your gas open, for example, and then you have a gas leak and it explodes. Different things. So you learn all of these things from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as well, to take precautions. You don't come and leave your windows open at night. Well, and then who's to blame when some criminal sees the window open and he decides to get in and rob and kill everybody? So nonetheless, so this fire is an enemy of yours. In other words, fire and human beings don't get along. You die from fire. So it's an enemy to you. So when you go to sleep, then extinguish your lamps. Extinguish it so that it does not hurt you, harm you, burn you, kill you, or at least I should say, if it were to fall down. Nobody's saying it will fall down. Many times you may say, but I slept and there was no problem. That is because Allah had protected you. It wasn't your time to die. But many people have died, like I say, even up until this late day and age in August 2022, people are still dying from it in their houses. Forget about outside, even in the houses. So therefore, we take the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as eternal guidance. From that time till now, till the end of the world, nothing will ever change in that way. Okay, so muttafaqun alayhi hadith is reported both by Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim rahimahumullah. Let's do one final hadith and we can then stop on this point here. Okay, السابع, the seventh hadith. عنه رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن مثل ما بعثني الله به من الهدى والعلم كمثل غيث أصاب أرضا فكانت منها طائفة طيبة. Okay, but for lengthy hadith, we do it in portions. Also reported by the same Sahabi, which is who? Meaning Hadrat Abu Musa al-Ash'ari radiyallahu anhu. He said that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, إن مثل ما بعثني الله به من الهدى والعلم. The example of the guidance and knowledge that Allah has sent me with, كمثل غيث أصاب أرضا, is like rain which falls on a particular land. فكانت منها طائفة طيبة قبلت الماء فأنبتت الكلأ والعشب الكثير. So Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam say, now the rain is falling on the earth, and there's a portion of the earth which is, or at least the people, and it's being used like there's a portion of the earth, this portion of the earth referring to the human beings. So part of this earth is ta'ifatun tayyiba, it's a portion which is pure. Qabilatil ma, it's like it's proper, nice, good soil. So it accepts the water, when the rain falls in this nice crops over here, then فَأَنْبَتَتِ الْكَلَأَ وَالْعُشْبَ الْكَثِيرِ. Now, all vegetation and plants and everything grows from it. وَكَأَنَ مِنْهَا الْأَجَادِبُ. And then you have the barren land. أَمْسَكَتِ الْمَاءَ. Or at least I should say, not exactly barren per se. Okay, it is part barren at the same time, but it is like hard. So it's like, let's put it in our terms, your dams, your catchment area. So you've got a hard place. أمسكت الماء فنفع الله بها الناس. The second type is earth which is hard. So the rain falls and it remains as a puddle, a pool, a spring, a dam, a catchment area. Call it what you want to. And the water remains there. It doesn't soak into the earth because it's hard. It's like a fallen in this rocky ravine, and the water is all now stored over there. So فَنَفَعَ اللَّهُ بِهَا النَّاسِ. And Allah benefits people through this water. We all see it. We are right here in PE, and it's always how much we had rain, how much fell into the catchment area. It's a question always being asked. Anyone who's ever gone through drought, the question always is, what fell in the catchment area? Why? Because everybody relies on the water which falls over there. The entire city depends on it. So, فَنَفَعَ اللَّهُ بِهَا النَّاسِ. People benefit through that. So that's number 2. فَشَرِبُوا مِنْهَا وَسَقَوْا وَزَرَعُوا. The Allah benefits the people, so they drink the water, they they feed the water to their animals, give them water to drink, and they use the water to water their crops, like we are doing with the dams and the water in our taps and everything of the sort. So that's the second type. وأصابت طائفة منها أخرى إنما هي قيعان لا تمسك ماء ولا تنبت كلأ فذلك مثل من فقه في دين الله تعالى ونفعها بما بعثني الله به فعلم وعلم. Okay, so Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam goes on now to explain. So that was 2. Now the third type is a group, another type now, which is, they are like the useless, barren thing that benefits nobody. La tumsiku ma'an. It doesn't absorb, it doesn't retain the water. The water falls and it soaks away. وَلَا تُنْبِتُ كَلَأً. And nothing grows there either. So the water is not on the, like it's not in a being caught in a catchment area dam. So it's not becoming a dam. It's not becoming a well. It's soaking into the ground. So the rain all fell there and it all disappeared. But the soil and things is so dead that nothing grows there. So that's the third type. So now Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam goes on to explain. فَذَلِكَ مَثَلُ مَنْ فَقُهَ فِي دِينِ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى. So this is the example of the people who have understanding of the deen of Allah. وَنَفَعَهَا بِمَا بَعَثَنِ اللَّهُ بِهِ. And وَنَفَعَهُ بِمَا بَعَثَنِ اللَّهُ بِهِ. And Allah benefits him with that which Allah has sent me with. In other words, a person who takes from the knowledge of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he's benefited with it. فَعَلِمَ وَعَلَّمَ. He learns and he teaches others too. وَمَثَلُ مَنْ لَمْ يَرْفَعْ بِذَلِكَ رَأْسًا وَلَمْ يَقْبَلْ هُدَى اللَّهِ الَّذِي أُرْسِلْتُ بِهِ. And the other one is the example of مَنْ لَمْ يَرْفَعْ بِذَلِكَ رَأْسًا. He doesn't lift his head up towards it. In other words, he pays no attention to it. That's the term. لَمْ يَرْفَعْ بِذَلِكَ رَأْسًا. He doesn't raise his head. In other words, in our terms, we would say he does not pay any attention. So Allah sent me with all of this guidance and knowledge, but he doesn't pay attention to it. وَلَمْ يَقْبَلْ هُدَى اللَّهِ الَّذِي أُرْسِلْتُ بِهِ. And he does not accept the guidance which Allah has sent me with. Muttafaqun alayhi is agreed upon both by Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim rahimahumullah. So فَقُهَ بِضَمِّ الْقَافِ عَلَى الْمَشْهُورِ أي صار فقيها. So فَقُهَ فَذَلِكَ مَثَلُ مَنْ فَقُهَ فِي دِينِ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى. This is the example of the one who has become a faqih, who has gotten the proper understanding of the deen of Allah, an alim. So Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is essentially saying 2 types of people, even though 3 were mentioned, but essentially it comes down to 2. I can break it down a little bit further, but 2 types. Number 1, the one who studied the deen, he benefits himself and he benefits others. He is the ta'ifatun tayyibah, that pure one who takes the water and it benefit, all the crops and everything grow out of it, and that's in its place. And you can also say the ajadib, the catchment area are also of this type. So if we don't have catchment areas, how will anybody survive? So both of these are good ones. So it saves the water, it catches the water, and people benefit all on account of it. So these 2 are good ones. And the third one is the useless barren land, which can produce nothing. So barren land is the one who does not accept the guidance. Now the guidance over here, okay, time is running short according to Zoom. So let's try and finish up. You have 2 types of people. The first 2 kinds refers to fuqaha, as you can take from this here. And number 2, you can also say this applies to Muslims. So the Muslim who has accepted Islam and learned the deen and teach the deen to others, invite others to Islam, giving da'wah, things of the sort, they fall into the first category. And the second type is the kafir, who doesn't accept the message of Islam. So you can take it in that way. Number two, you can take it in the context of the faqih. So the one person is a faqih, he learns, he studies, he teaches others and benefits the world and everything of the sort. And the other person is like, I'm Muslim, but it's like my focus is on everything else except the deen. So I'm focusing on how I can further my career, I'm focusing on how I can do this and do that and everything, but you don't pay any attention to your deen. So Allah had sent me with all the guidance, and I'm living my life out here like any old kafir person, don't even know I'm Muslim. You living that type of life. So وَلَمْ يَقْبَلْ هُدَى اللَّهِ الَّذِي أُرْسِلْتُ بِهِ. You pay no attention and you don't bother with of the guidance. That the guidance comes through knowledge. Now you are 45 years a Muslim and I'm Muslim my whole life, but I don't know how to perform salah. Where you going? So anyway, it's a okay, we did explain this one here. It's not a faqiha, it's faquha, meaning this is the mashhur, the well-known recitation of the hadith. Yeah, where was it now? مثل من فقه في دين الله تعالى. So it means he has become a faqih. Now, like I said, you can take it in different ways. Ulama of different types. There are those who study. They benefit themselves and they benefit others. In other words, amila bima alima. They act upon that which they know. That's them. And the second category can be now the type of people who they have the knowledge, but they lack a bit in practice. But at the same time, they also teach it to others. So they get their reward and things in that way, but they still fall short in the way it comes to their personal practice. Not obviously in the first category. And then, the third category is the type of person who don't bother studying the deen. He's a barren piece of land, nonetheless. You have many statements of amongst the Sahaba and Tabi'een and A'imma throughout the ages, all with the importance of knowledge. عالما أو الناس ثلاثة فعالم رباني ومتعلم على سبيل النجاة وهمج رعاء أتباع كل ناعق يميلون مع كل الريح. Statement continues, but it's attributed to Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu, who said that people are divided into three categories. فعالم رباني. The first category is the alim who's a Rabbani. So Rabbani, okay, we need a whole explanation for that, meaning somebody who you give tarbiyah to others, you practice upon it yourself. You're a person who is pious in your obedience and worship of Allah. That's the alim Rabbani. The second is muta'allimun ala sabilin najah. The second category is, so the first one is the alim, the second ala sabili najah, muta'allimun ala sabili najah, the student who is studying so that he can save himself, meaning save himself from falling into haram, save himself from going to Jahannam on account of ignorance of the deen. So be someone who learns the deen, who be a faqih in the deen and you teach others. And the second category is if you are not an alim, then be a student, you study the deen so you can benefit yourself. And the third is then you are a flapdoodle, tumbleweed. Means you blow wherever the wind blows here, there you go there, the wind blows there, you go there. Not doesn't mean you follow Zakir Naik. Well, maybe if you follow Zakir Naik too, you kind of fall into the same category. What is Naik? Naik is, you hear the birds here in South Africa, you get those big ones, hadedas as they're known in South African terms, as we call them. So you've got the bird and he screams out there, and so you hear a sound and you run, and then another one shouts there and you run that way. Every time you hear a sound, you run in that direction. In other words, you are a rudderless person. You in the ocean without up the creek without a paddle, in the ocean without a sail. You don't know where you're going. In other words, wherever you're blown, you go. So if tomorrow you sit by a Qadiani, then you sit by a Hadith rejected, then you buy a Salafi, then you buy this one here, you have no direction, you have no compass, you have no knowledge to guide you through anything. So people are generally into those three categories. Either you have studied and understood the deen, or you are studying the deen so that you are, that's why ala sabili najat. It's not a hadith, it's a statement attributed to Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu. So the second category, at least you are studying. You're doing whatever little but you can to learn the deen so that ala sabili najah, so that I can be saved from the wrong paths, in simple terms. Otherwise, if you are not an alim and you are not somebody who strives to study your deen, then you are a person who's a tumbleweed. The wind just blows and there you roll along. Or in the context of South Africa, you are a plastic packet who's blowing around all over the place, and you stick to a piece of twig here, and next time your spa packet is laying there in the ocean and is busy killing and suffocating a fish. But anyhow, the point being the importance of knowledge. And this is what Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was emphasizing in this hadith here, that Allah has sent me with so much knowledge and guidance, and who of you are going to be what type that will receive this knowledge and guidance, benefit yourself, and share it with other people so that they too can benefit. And Allah knows best. And that's the end of that 7th hadith. And we will start next week, inshallah ta'ala, from the 8th hadith, hadith number 164. But that being said, we end on this point here for tonight, inshallah ta'ala, as our time is just about up as well. So we end on this point until next time. We end and we say, wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad, subhanallahi wa bihamdihi, subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.